So this is Leamington, Ontario. We get great weather for growing all kinds of crops, and beets do quite well. I actually have a really long season for beets because you can plant them early and then you can have another crop in the fall. They seem to do fine in the summertime as well. So what do you do with all these beets? Well, we're going to freeze some today. So this is a little video that'll teach you how to freeze beets. There's not much to it. You probably don't even need a video, but maybe somebody out there does, so we thought, why not? Alright, let's get going. So it's mid-August here in Leamington, Ontario, 2010, and as far as I'm concerned, it's been a pretty lousy summer. It's been hot, hazy, humid, hellish, whatever other H words you can come up with for it. So one positive about it, though, is that it makes doing this indoor type work, canning and freezing and dehydrating, a little easier to do, because it's not like you can be outside doing much anyways. So today we're going to freeze some beets. You start off with your beets. Leave some of the stem on, quite a bit of it, and also leave the root end on as well. I'm going to give this beet a good washing, but if you leave the stem and the root on, it'll reduce the amount of bleeding that's going to happen when they're being boiled. So all I'm going to do is start washing the beets and then place them in the pot where they're going to boil until they're tender, where you can pierce them with a fork quite easily. Okay, so the water's come up to a boil, and leaving the root end of the beet on gives me kind of like a little handle to put those beets into the water without creating too much of a splash. So those guys are just going to go in there, and they're going to boil until they're fork tender. And my husband and my son, who's 4 years old and loves nothing more than to go out and harvest anything, will be bringing some more beets in. But for now I'm just going to get started on those ones, and I'll add more to the pot when they come in. Okay, so another huge load of beets has come in, and I think this is going to be an all-day thing now. I think I'll be boiling beets for quite a while. Those are beautiful.
Golden beets.
And golden beets, those are wonderful looking. Here's the book that I'm using for inspiration today. It's called Preserving Summer's Bounty, and it's a really, really good book for learning how to can and dehydrate, making jams and jellies. There's lots of how-to information. There's step-by-step procedures, there's good diagrams, and there's even recipes at the back. In it will tell you that beets taste better when they're canned. But I don't have a pressure canner, and I believe they're a low-acid food, and you have to use a pressure canner to make sure that the beets are safe if you want to make them shelf-stable. So I'm opting to freeze the beets, as I did last year. They taste quite good. The only problem is that if you have a power failure for more than a couple of days, you may lose the contents of your freezer, and that's no fun. So it's always nice to have some shelf-stable food that you've made as well. So our goal this year is to track down a pressure canner and try to do beans and beets and those foods that need the pressure canner to make them safe. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that this is a really good book, and you might want to look into getting yourself a copy if you're trying to learn how to do all this home canning type stuff. Okay, so these beets have been going for about an hour and 15 minutes now. We'll check them out. They're fork tender. So basically I'm just going to remove them from the pot, spread them out on a tray. I find that if you spread them out on a tray, they cool off a lot faster than if you throw them all in a bowl. It kind of retains the heat. This allows them to cool off a bit better. These have cooled off now enough that you can handle them. So the first thing I do is cut off the stem and the root end, and then once you've done that, the skin just comes off really easily. And I throw the skin and the other stuff into the composter, and I'm going to peel all of these, and I'll be right back. Okay, now at this point, all the books that I have say you can either freeze them whole, like this, or you can slice them, you can quarter them, or you can even dice them before you freeze them. We slice them because that's how we usually end up eating them anyways. And also, I find that they stack in the freezer a little more neatly when they're sliced, because the packs are nice and flat and you can stack them on top of each other, but it doesn't really matter, whatever you prefer. Okay, we like to eat sliced beets, so that's how I do them. I just slice them. They're pretty thick. They turn out nice when you take them out of the freezer and just let them thaw out at their own pace. Don't try and cook them when they're frozen. And then they're going to go into this Ziploc freezer bag. My new rule for myself is that I always put what the contents of the bag is and the date, because even though I'm the one who does most of this and I should be able to recognize stuff, I don't know, once it's frozen and it's in the freezer, it's a little bit difficult to recognize some things when you're in a hurry, and you don't want to have your freezer door open for a long time while you're trying to figure things out. So I just find that just labeling everything makes it so much easier. Well, I've got this Ziploc bag filled with enough beets to make a side dish for one meal. That way when I pull it out of the freezer, all the beets will get used up in one meal. I just find it more convenient that way. So what I do is I Ziploc most of the Ziploc here, and I leave a little space, and I insert like a drinking straw, and what I'll do is actually suck the air out of the package. But I'm not going to be able to do that with the camera in my hand, so I'll come back and show you once you've sucked all the air out of the package what it looks like. Okay, so there you go. It's basically vacuum sealed now. All the air's been sucked out of the package. The plastic is tight fitting against the produce that's there, and it's ready to be stored into the freezer until we need it. One thing I'd like to do is eliminate this idea that the plastic is close to the food. That's why we want to get a pressure canner this summer and start canning the beets instead. But if you've got other ideas about how you package your stuff for the freezer where you don't have plastic in contact with your food, maybe you can leave a comment. But that's the way we're going to do it for now. So this is Peely Farmer signing off from here at the farm. Hope your beet freezing goes well.